Welcome back to the Climb the Pocket YouTube channel. My name is Steve. I'm with my co-host, as always, Ryan McGinley. Find him on Twitter at Bootleg Fantasy. Find me at Steve_CTP. Today, we are ranking tight ends. We are tiered ranking tight ends. So we're going to show you the difference between different groups of tight ends in your drafts, where you should be targeting them, and what types of players are grouped with other groups of players at the tight end position. In the second half, we will answer your Twitter questions you have asked. We will answer not necessarily about tight ends, but fantasy football in general to help you with your upcoming fantasy football draft. So let's go ahead and get into the tiered rankings. We have about 24 tight ends here. Not going to rank too much further past there because they all start to look the same. They kind of look the same after 12, especially after last season. That was a rough tight end season. I think we're going to go ahead and agree with this one. There is a tier 1 here, and I think only one player belongs there. Ryan, I will speak for you here, and it's going to be Travis Kelce. I don't think you think anything or anyone else should be in tier 1.
Yeah, for fantasy purposes, it's just Kelce. It's tough to not get my boy George Kittle in tier 1 because he is the best all-around tight end in the NFL. But that's not what we're here for. We got attacked on Twitter this past week because we ranked fantasy football wide receivers. Go check out the video, free plug. Somebody got mad that we were ranking fantasy football wide receivers and we put DeAndre Hopkins at 6. We're also doing tight ends the same way. So George Kittle, best all-around tight end, but he's not a fantasy tight end, the number one. So yeah.
Yeah, tight end's such a fun position too, and yeah, for fantasy, I mean. Travis Kelce is just like such an amazing receiver in the NFL, but George Kittle, arguably one of the best, if not the best tight end in the game when it comes to all-around blocking, receiving, just being a really good all-around football player for his team and one of the best pieces for his team. So yeah, definitely. And that we'll start off tier 2 with George Kittle. I'd say George Kittle is pretty close to Waller in drafts right now. And people are kind of flip-flopping him. I personally like George Kittle's upside a little more than Waller, just the team he's on. I think he's going to be not necessarily more of a focal point. I think Kittle and Waller are both like the number one options in their team. San Francisco has a little more better options than the Raiders do after the tight end position. But I think his I don't know, for some reason I picture him more of as like an elusive player. Waller's great. I mean, he can get around the football field. He's awesome. These guys are so close. I'm just picking and choosing here, but when you give Waller the ball like on a flat route, I feel like he can hit the wheel and hit the end zone a little better than Waller could.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that these two guys fit the offenses they're in perfectly. Like we just touched on, George Kittle, he's an unbelievable blocker, and we know that the 49ers like to run the ball first. I mean, that's kind of been their mantra the last couple of years. And George Kittle's the perfect tight end for play action. He releases from his block. He's all of a sudden wide open down 15 yards. And then he's a yards after the catch specialist. I mean, I think he led the league a couple years ago in yards after the catch as a tight end. That's unbelievable. I mean, you don't see that. He's a freak after the catch because he's tough to tackle. He's pretty quick for a big guy. I mean, he's not the quickest tight end, but he gets the job done. And the way Waller plays, he's more of a pass catching tight end. He's not really an inline guy. So as the number one option in Las Vegas for Derek Carr, he's going to get peppered. And I really do like Waller. I think for fantasy, I actually have Waller as my 2 over Kittle just because of how both of them play. I get nervous with George, right? He gets hurt a lot, a little bit too much for my liking, especially if I'm using such a high pick. I kind of preach the whole safety in the first couple of rounds, and Waller is a safer pick. I mean, Kittle could go for 1,400 yards this year and, blow my projections out of the water. But, yeah, just the fact that he blocks so frequently, and he always has those freak injuries that he bounces back from, like the knee injury that, his knee hyperextended and then he continued to play in the game. He's a freak athlete. He's one of, if not my favorite player in the NFL. But, I mean, Waller just feels safer to me this year.
Yeah, and I guess I know Derek Carr doesn't sound awesome, but they have a connection. And when you come to the 49ers, we don't know who their starter is. We think it's Jimmy G. Could be Trey Lance a little later on. Maybe he starts the season. We don't know. And that question, I think I like Derek Carr throwing to Waller better than both those guys throwing to anyone. So I think I agree with you. I don't know how I feel about taking Waller in like the third round or Kittle,
Yeah.
especially like you mentioned, like investing an early pick in Kittle seems kind of risky. A lot of people it doesn't seem like that. People see George Kittle in the third round or sometimes the back of the second, and they're just like, oh, I got to swallow this up. He dropped, and like I don't really feel that way. Travis Kelsey's different. He's a guy I actually do feel comfortable taking at the end of the first round because I got a swing pick. I can get a guy in the second round. Then I secured Kelsey. He's like a wide receiver one anyway, and then I get another good player. I don't know if I'm willing to invest that in Waller or Kittle. There's a little more question marks. Kelsey's a slam dunk. These guys are great, but if I'm taking a tight end, it's either Travis Kelsey in whatever area I get him after pick 10, and somewhere in the second round would be awesome, or I'm waiting until at least the fourth or fifth round, probably the fifth round at least. I'd probably have to go to the second group that we're going to talk about, and I think we can agree, and it's probably a fantasy football consensus. There's a couple guys in this next tier, probably. I don't know who you have at number 4, but it's probably between somewhere Mark Andrews and T.J. Hockenson. Who do you got up there at number 4?
So my fourth tight end is Hockenson.
Okay.
I saw Hockenson this offseason. He's got the long hair. He's got the beard. He no longer has that Iowa bowl cut that we were used to seeing on T.J. Hockenson. He looks like a man's man now. And Jared Goff, not great throwing to the outside. He really relied on guys in the middle of the field, i.e. Cooper Kupp, i.e. Robert Woods. I don't want to talk about our boy Tower Higbee that we'll touch on later, but I really think that Hockenson has to get peppered like Darren Waller has in the last couple of years, just because I couldn't tell you really who their number one wide receiver is going to be. Brashad Perriman, maybe. Their receiving options are very limited beyond Hockenson, so I think he's going to be a 120 target guy. I don't know if he's the full talent to be a true 120 target guy. Like, I don't see him in the same talent area as the first three, but I think, once again, volume is king in fantasy football, and he's my number 4 for that reason.
Yeah, I love Hockenson for sure, especially like you mentioned with Goff. There is some coach speak coming out about this next guy. I think you have a number 5. I have him at number 5, and that's Mark Andrews. I think what we saw last year was regression in the touchdown department, negative regression. There was just such high efficiency in 2019 between Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. Now the team did add Rashad Bateman and Sammy Watkins. I don't think either of those guys threaten Mark Andrews to be the leading target on the team. And there's talks out of camp that Andrews catching tons of touchdowns, and that connection looks better than ever. And I think I'd be willing to bet that this is a positive regression for Mark Andrews again, back to not exactly what he did in 2019 when they were off the charts efficient, the connection between him and Lamar, but towards that. And if he can get towards that, that puts him right around this area, right around, he could have a season like Waller had last year, or even just a little bit less. So I think Andrews' upside for me is just a little bit higher than Hawkinson's playing with Goff. I think because we've seen it with Andrews already with Lamar Jackson. I'd be willing to bet that gets closer to happening again than Hockenson completely breaking out, having a Darren Waller like season like we saw last year. But just like tier 2, I think tier 3, these two guys are pretty close to each other, just like Kittle and Waller are. Do you have anyone else that would fall into this tier? Any hot takes?
Steve, you think Mark Andrews is my 5? He's not my 5, Steve. He's my number 6.
Okay.
And he's behind Mr. Put Up or Shut Up this year, Dallas Goedert.
Wow. Okay.
I
had to know. Should have known.
Yeah, you should have known. I mean, this is a pro Philadelphia Eagles side of the podcast. And Zach Ertz is apparently getting moved. He hasn't gotten moved yet. It's kind of contingent on him getting moved, but he looked like a pretty solid tight end last year. And with Jalen Hurts probably focusing on the middle of the field more than Wentz was doing, I think he's got the chance to be a top 5 tight end, and I really think that he's projecting that way. The way that I expect the Eagles to play is similar to the Ravens. It's similar to the 49ers, where they're going to run the ball a lot. And Dallas Goedert's a great inline blocker who's going to benefit from any type of rollout from Jalen Hurts. I think Hurts is going to try to be a safer quarterback and get that completion percentage over 50% this year. So I really do like Dallas Goedert. I think Devonta Smith really opens up the field for the guys that were supposed to be in the middle of the field for the Eagles. Like I think Rager's going to be a lot better this year, and Dallas Goedert's the prime beneficiary of the offense that they're forming. I think at 5, he's a pretty solid play, and realistically, I'm probably one of the only people putting him this high. So you can get him at tight end 7, I would bet, and you're going to get some solid value for him. So I really do think Dallas Goedert's going to have that finally he's breaking out year, and I really, really expect him to be the main pass catcher on this offense.
So Ryan, you might be the only one that has him at 5, but now that we're talking about it, this is a tiered consensus list for us, so we kind of have to agree on what tiers they're in. And I actually do agree with you. I would have Dallas Goedert now that I'm looking at these players we have here, and the consensus tight end rankings are out there on websites, different ranking websites, that Dallas Goedert is my 6. Everything you said I agree with. I think the upside for him has always been there. We've seen plenty of stretches in his just couple seasons in the NFL where we can see the breakout potential, but Zach Ertz has kind of been looming there, and I think this is going to be the first year where Dallas Goedert is going to be, the featured tight end on his team, and he's going to be one of Jalen Hurts' go-to guys, and he's super athletic. And I mean, Philly tight ends have always been pretty good, and we've seen that the last couple of years. And I'm definitely going to ride that Dallas Goedert train. I wasn't trying to say the tier 3 is just these two guys. I was trying to match what I thought you were doing, but I agree. I think Dallas Goedert has just as much upside as a guy like T.J. Hockenson. Just as one of the top targets in his offense. So I like Dallas Goedert there in the 3rd tier, but I would say that would end the tier. I don't know exactly. I think a lot of people might be willing to throw Kyle Pitts up here into tier 3. There's a lot of hype on Kyle Pitts right now. We'll talk about him because I think he'll find I'm doing a lot of wrong guessing for you, but is he in your tier 4?
Yeah, no, okay. Kyle Pitts is a tier 4 guy to me. And like the thought with Kyle Pitts is Julio Jones he's gone, right? And he's going to step into the Julio Jones role. And that's fun, like I want him to be great, right? He's pretty local to me. He's like a Philly guy. He's nasty. I mean, he's going to have a great NFL career. Historically, rookie tight end's not great. If I draft Kyle Pitts, I'm going to need a guy that we're going to put in tier 5, tier 6. And personally for me, I don't like drafting 2 tight ends if you're kind of limited on space. I don't know. I know that Calvin Ridley was 3rd in the NFL last year in red zone targets, so there's not too many targets vacated. Julio Jones, I don't think, cracked the top 15. I don't know, man. I want Kyle Pitts to be a great tight end, and I think he's a cheeky pick for most people in fantasy football right now. A lot of people are hitching their wagons to Kyle Pitts, but you're also hitching your wagon to Matt Ryan, and I don't know, man. I can't pull the trigger on Kyle Pitts as my only tight end above the guys that we've already put out.
Yeah, I agree that Kyle Pitts should be here in tier 4. I like that we're talking about him because it gives me an opportunity to bring up the fact that I don't understand where he's going drafted. And to some of these like industry mock drafts and whatnot, he's going in like round 3 and 4 sometimes, like round 4 as like the 4th tight end. I think he's a lot of people's consensus 4th tight end. And I can see why. He's freakishly athletic, amazing talent. He's going to be the number 2 target with Calvin Ridley there in Atlanta. It's just people are just completely throwing the fact out the window about rookie tight ends. I don't remember the last time we've seen like a complete breakout from a rookie tight end. Yeah. And I know we haven't seen a Kyle Pitts in a long time, like anyone like him, where he's more of a wide receiver playing. He's a wide receiver playing the tight end position. Yeah. That's what he is, and definitely get excited about it. There's a learning curve to be had still in the NFL, and if you draft him as your number 1 tight end and he doesn't show up for you the way you drafted him for 4-5 weeks, that can be detrimental to your team if you take him there in the 4th round. I mean, I know 4th round picks miss all the time, and maybe he won't be a miss throughout the season, but he's going to hurt you, and he might hurt you lose your matchup against your opponent in the tight end department. So we're not drafting him low. We're not ranking him really low. He's still our number 6 or 7 guy around that area, but definitely not up in number 4 and not any higher than that. So
with the guys we have ranked, I feel like we know what the guys that we have ranked are going to do. And like just harping on me being safe as a fantasy football player, I don't know. Like if Kyle Pitts slides in your draft and everyone's doing the I'm not taking a tight end thing, and you want to take a heavy swing at Pitts before Dallas Goedert or Mark Andrews, I can see it. Like I understand your thought process. If you've got 2 or 3 running backs that you like, 2 or 3 wide receivers you like, and you're taking a swing, I get it, right? But you just need to know that you have to have safety somewhere in case Kyle Pitts doesn't come out of the gates hot. Mm-hmm. And as a rookie, it's fun to put these guys up there immediately. Like I haven't seen Dallas Goedert run in spandex recently. I've seen Kyle Pitts run in spandex recently. Like they're in the forefront of your eyes. So I understand why it's like a cheeky fun thing to like go quick on the rookies, and that's kind of what fantasy football does in June. We talk about rookies, we make them our tight end 3, and then we go from there. But I personally don't think it's a safe play for Pitts. But if you're in a deeper league and you feel a little cheeky, I get it.
All right. We've gotten through the meat and potatoes of the tight ends. Let's go ahead and start throwing some of these other tight ends in these buckets. Now, we only have 6 tiers here, so keep that in mind. I have a feeling the 6th tier will be a big smorgasbord of a bunch of tight ends we aren't really drafting or probably streaming. But let's go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and start it off, kind of like an auction draft. Where do we find Tyler Higbee here? Do you find him in the same tier as Kyle Pitts? It's kind of an insult when we talk about it. Maybe Kyle Pitts should be. You think Kyle Pitts should be the end of tier 3? Do you think we should talk about it like that to clear up another tier?
Yeah, no. Actually, let's move Pitts up to 3.
Yeah,
and I'll feel better with Pitts in 3 because I can't put Kyle Pitts with the heartbreak kid Tyler.
We don't have to go in order here, 4 to 6, but I'm going to pick some random players. You can kind of tell me based on what we have so far. The top 7 tight ends there. Yep. Now there's 3 more categories that categorize the rest of these tight ends. Where would you put Tyler Higbee? And I like his upside this year with Matt Stafford. I do. See, you don't look like you do.
I do too.
Gerald Everett's gone. There's going to be targets for him. Now I like Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods' upside, like an increase in upside more than I like Higbee. But he's still the only really guy there at that position that we wanted him to break out last year. Didn't really happen. He had a couple of games.
We tried to will him into a breakout year. And I do like Higbee
when you talk about that next tier, from what we're at. Do you think he's there, or do you think he's a step down? Because maybe you have to have your eye on a couple other players who would fill out that 4th tier.
I think he's a step down. I do.
We can always
I want to put him in 4. I do.
Yeah.
But there's a couple guys on this list that I see that I'd prefer to have over Higbee. If I paired those guys with Higbee, I feel good. Like last year, I was very excited for the Tyler Higbee Jack of all trades, Jack Doyle stack. Didn't like that.
We rode those
now
guys
Tyler
hot.
Higbee is the bottom part of that stack. So if I get somebody and then Tyler Higbee, I feel better about Higbee in a pinch. But yeah, Higbee's a tier 5 guy for me.
All right, so who's someone you're definitely drafting ahead of Higbee and he's in tier 4 for you?
The biggest football snub of all time should have been a Pro Bowler, Mr. 10 touchdowns, Mr. Aaron Rodgers' second favorite target, Robert Tonyan. You kidding me?
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
He's getting disrespected across the fantasy landscape. And realistically, if Robert Tonyan is most people's tight end 8-ish, tight ends in a pretty good spot compared to last year. You feel a little bit better about tight ends this year than you did last. Like you kind of filtered out like the dead weight kind of guys. Like Zach Ertz is no longer a top 10 tight end. Kyle Rudolph isn't going to sniff that top 10 tight end because realistically he's the tight end 2 in New York, and everyone's just mad at Evan Ingram over one bad year. I think Robert Tonyan, tight end 8, I'm pretty happy with him. Do you have anybody you would draft over Higbee as well?
Now that I look at it, I think I like Noah Fant just a little bit better. I think his upside is beyond what Tyler Higbee can do. I know we've seen Higbee's ceiling before, but I really like what Noah Fant's been saying in this offseason, that he wants to be one of the best tight ends in the league. He's going to go to the tight end camp. And I feel like his desire and passion to be one of the best tight ends in the league, and his overall build of a player as a tight end, it really fits that mold, even more than Robert Tonyan. I think he just needs a competent pass thrower, or a thrower of the football, quarterback. He needs that. If he had that, I know people talk about Aaron Rodgers goes to the Broncos. If Aaron Rodgers went to the Broncos, Noah Fant would be it'd be really hard to rank him outside of tier 2. He'd be at the front of tier 3. no doubt for me, because he's just such a good talent. He's a big body out there, and I think he would adapt really well with a good quarterback. So I love Noah Fant. I don't like him playing with Drew Lock. I like him with Teddy Bridgewater a little better, but it's still kind of iffy, and that's the only reason he's down here in tier 4. I think if he had a good quarterback, he'd be up there in tier 3.
Yep. I mean, I agree. I really like Fant. I mean, I don't know what they feed people in Iowa, but they feed top 10 tight end food. I don't know what the food is. What do they have in Iowa? Corn? What is that?
Yeah, corn.
I can tell you. But there's only I think there's only one other tight end that I can like definitively say is for sure not in tier 5, and he's a safe play to me, and that's Logan Thomas. I really do like Logan Thomas a lot. You don't have to agree. I can't.
I do agree. I agree. We gotta tier these guys out, and I like what he did last year. It's kind of like a coming out party, and now he's got a quarterback who likes to throw a ball a little more. So I like that.
Here's the thing with Logan, right? He's always on the field. He led tight ends last year in route participation. He was in 96% of them. He led tight ends in snap share at 97%. He led tight ends in slot snaps. But it comes with a caveat that, he's not going to be moving too far once he's on the field. I mean, he was 32nd in yards per reception. He was 31st in yards per target. He was 31st in yards per route run, which, kind of comes with the whole being on the field thing. His true catch percentage was 34th, but the fact that he's on the field at all times, he's trusted by that organization, I really think he's a safe play. So, like, if you're going up against a boom or bust tight end and you feel pretty good about the rest of your guys, Logan Thomas is pretty safe, right? And you know what you're getting out of him. He's not he's not like an exciting guy, you're not like thrilled that you're smashing Logan Thomas in your lineup, but you know what you're getting. He's going to get the job done, and he's probably not going to give you a zero burger. So Logan Thomas, you're safely in tier 4 for me.
All right, for the rest of the tight ends, I'm going to name a tight end. You're going to tell me what bucket. I'm going to put him in the bucket.
Yep.
If we think he should be ahead of a player in that bucket, you let me know. Let's go ahead and start off with Eric Ebron. Bucket.
6.
Okay. Touchdown upside, but...
I mean, they just drafted Freiermuth, who really under the radar tight end from Penn State. Pittsburgh loves having Penn State people because, aside from the University of Pittsburgh, Penn State is probably the second college to them. They'll be yelling Heath at PJ Freiermuth by week 3, and Eric Ebron's going to get booed off the field because he can't catch. So, yeah.
All right, Evan Ingram.
Tier 5, 100%.
I think so too.
He had a bad year last year. I mean, what are you going to do? He had a couple. He had
injuries are starting to catch up to him. Injuries are starting to catch up to him a little bit.
He had 10 drops.
I'm also worried because we haven't really seen it with Daniel Jones and him. He hasn't really had the full opportunity, and we haven't really seen it like we did when Eli was there. So I'm still waiting. We see the talent, but we got to keep waiting. All right, Gerald Everett in Seattle. Kind of a wild card. Could be a sneaky pick.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he's a tier 6er though.
Yeah, he's a cheeky
Is he ahead of
waiver
Ebron?
wire pickup.
Is he ahead of Ebron?
Season long, I don't think so, but I think he's got higher upside. You know what I mean? I feel like Ebron's gonna be like boring, but Everett could be good.
Ebron's
I know Ebron's not gonna be good.
Ebron was like before Tunyon was kind of there. Ebron, or actually on the Bears, but like Ebron's in the category like Jimmy Graham. Like he's like you're trying to get a touchdown, you just throw him in your lineup. Yeah,
that's you're strictly there for touchdowns there.
All right,
Ebron.
Anthony Ferkser for the Titans. Now that John's gone,
5.
Okay, sure. All right, I like that.
Yeah, no. The
Targets
first going to be loose.
Julio's in, but it's a whole position. It's vacant now, so they're not sharing it.
They're not doubling Anthony, so I know that he's going to have some targets from Tannehill, who likes to throw the ball to save plays. So
all right, Mike Gesicki.
6. I picked him up multiple times last year, and he stunk.
I'm gonna put him in the front. Honestly, Brian, I'm gonna overrule. I'm gonna put him in tier 5. Put him in tier 5.
I'm speaking with a bias here.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Gronkowski.
He's going to be in tier 5 to most people, but he's a tough play for me, dude. I don't know. Gronk. I'm not drafting Gronk.
These guys aren't necessarily draftable, but
he's a tier 5 guy. I'd rather have Gronk.
We'll put him at the end of tier 5. You bet more than Gesicki, huh?
Yeah, I'd rather have Gronk in my lineup than Mike Gesicki, 100%.
All right, we'll put him in front of Gesicki. Hunter Henry on the Patriots. Oh, the situation is just murdering his rank.
Man, because to me, he's a tier 4 talent, but I'm not putting him up.
I'm going to the beginning of tier 6. I can't see myself drafting him over any of the guys we just talked about in tier 5, which is awful because he's awesome. Yeah. But I hated that they took both those tight ends. If there was just one tight end, not Jonnu and him in New England, my ranking would be completely different. Even though I'm not excited about the pass game there, it would just be completely different. But the fact that they brought in 2 great tight end talents, it's awful. I can't even do it.
No, I completely agree. I love Henry, and the videos of Cam overthrowing everybody at training camp aren't supposed to razz me, but I'm razzed a little bit, and I don't like McCorkle Jones even a little bit. So,
all right, let's get fun. Sorry. Let's get fun. Blake Jarwin.
Ooh, tier 5.
Tier 5. Okay, I like it. All right. Austin Hooper. Some pretty good games last year. I think he's a tier 5.
Tier 5, I think, but I just want at least one of the tight ends there. I got either Bryant or David Njoku to go somewhere else.
All right.
Because they're all good.
Irv Smith, tier 6.
Dude, the thing is, though, they lost Rudolph, and
they didn't.
And they said that he's not going to have a bigger role in the offense, which is just a bull-faced lie to me.
I would draft all the guys in tier 5 over Irv Smith, though. I just would.
Yeah, no, I'm putting him above Ebron. I'm drafting.
I'm going to put him above Hunter. I have Hunter Henry in tier 6. I'm going to put Irv just slightly above Hunter Henry.
Yeah, above.
I'm disrespecting my boy Hunter, but man, you look good in Charger blue. You shouldn't have gone to New England. All right, Jared Cook.
Can we? Do we even have to put him up?
End of tier 6. Jonnu Smith. Right next to our boy Hunter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Cole Kmet. Interesting pick.
I feel like I'm going to want him on my team, but I'm not going to want to have him on my bench, and I don't want to start him. But
I want to put him right there between Ebron and Jonnu. Just throw him in there.
Yeah, it depends who's playing quarterback to me. If Fields is in there, maybe slight bump.
Yeah.
But also, is Jimmy Graham still playing? Is he still doing it?
He's actually still there.
I mean,
he's Mr. Reliable as far as
Cole deserves his time to shine, but organizations don't want to.
He ended the season very, very well, so I can maybe has a really good camp and off-season program. So we'll see. Let's go ahead and move on. That was our tight end tiered ranking. Let's go ahead and move on to the Twitter mailbag. Love this. First time we're doing it this year. We'll have many more. Look out for our tweets. Ask any questions for fantasy football. We'll try to get you answered here on the show. Question number 1 comes in from Nick Script, PTW on fantasy, big guy out there. We love him. Lingering injuries or injuries from last year hesitate you from drafting a player in the 2021 redraft? Anything come to mind when you think of that question?
So Nick has to deal with Steffi Smalls probably. He does every week. They've got a show together. Mm-hmm. And I think the main culprit that gets lumped into this injury concern is always a running back, right? And that one hits close to home for Steffi because she's a Giants fan, and naturally Saquon Barkley went down early last year. To me, it's 2021. I'm pretty sure that, science is caught up. It's not 1997 anymore. You can repair an ACL. To me, there's a slight buffer period for these guys in the beginning of the year where they get their sea legs because no one gets hit in the preseason. But down the stretch, they just get stronger, and you kind of adapt your team around them. And if they can catapult your squad, Saquon Barkley is a freak of nature athlete. We've seen him squat 750 pounds. I'm not concerned about that guy. I'm not concerned about him. I'm not concerned really about McCaffrey. I'm not running backs seemingly are bouncing back quicker than they have in previous years. The David Johnson videos of him jumping out of the pool with torn ACLs. To me, modern science is figuring it out. it's no longer as big of an issue. You just kind of need to keep an eye on it, and that's why you need your drafts end of August, first week of September, because you need to know all the information. If there's a setback, you can't really do anything about that. But to me, injuries aren't that big of a deal as they were 5-6 years ago with like Jamal Charles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll just throw a player out there. There has been some talks about Antonio Gibson's turf toe. It's on my radar. It's on my radar.
Yeah,
I'm not.
that's fair.
It's hesitation, So I'll have to hear a little more about that before I pull the trigger on him in round 2. All right, moving on to the next question from Jacob Hubbard on Twitter. Thoughts on Chase Edmonds? Think he'll be the guy this season, or do you think Connor takes a decent chunk? Personally, hoping Edmonds gets a shot. I think we're all hoping Edmonds gets a shot. There's just been some talk from the team out there that they don't really want Edmonds to be that. They like his role right now. I'm not saying he won't get an increase in snaps and touches. He's definitely going to. I just see this backfield being more of ideally for them, a 50-50 split. I don't know if there's much more info out there as far as who's going to get the job, but when Chase Edmonds has had his opportunity, he's certainly flashed in some games, but I know there's been plenty of times where Kenyon Drake was out or Chase Edmonds was the only guy available that week, and people picked up Chase Edmonds. Didn't really turn out to be what you were expecting, maybe a top 10 running back that week. So what's your thoughts on this?
So for me personally, James Conner and Kenyon Drake seems similar to me, right? Like, and that wasn't how Kenyon Drake was his first couple years in the league. But last year, Kenyon Drake looked more like James Conner than I feel like he looked like Kenyon Drake. Like he wasn't as quick. Honestly, I don't know if the red and white jersey's a slowing looking color because David Johnson looks super slow there too. I just don't think that Chase Edmonds has it in him to be a 3-down guy. I don't know if he's a 2-down guy even, Like there's like a couple games or so where he looks great, and if you started him because there was somebody out for them and he went for he had like the 120-yard game with like a couple touchdowns, and then people fall in love with that, right? Yeah. And they say because he did that one time in the game where somebody was out, he should be able to do it all the time as a main back. And I don't think he's built that way. I think James Conner, if healthy, is a pretty decent running back. I mean, I think he broke more tackles than Ezekiel Elliott last year. And I don't even know if James Conner played last year. And I don't know. I personally was a Kenyon Drake guy in that backfield last year. I had Kenyon Drake on a lot of teams. Mm-hmm. I was pulling for Kenyon Drake, and I was not pulling for Chase Edmonds. And I don't think Kenyon Drake earned that job, but Chase Edmonds didn't earn that job either. And there's a reason why they brought in James Conner. I don't know, man. I think Conner is looking for a bounce-back type year, and if he gets things going, he's a pretty sneaky guy to own on your fantasy team.
Yeah, I think Edmonds will be a slightly overdrafted this season.
100%. Moving
on to the next question from Chris on Twitter. If Rodgers doesn't play in Green Bay this year, how far does Adams fall in the rankings? Let's kind of talk wide receiver rankings, I guess, instead of, and maybe rounds in fantasy football drafts. If Jordan Love is a quarterback, and we're not hearing great things out of Green Bay, I think Adams alone, just the fact that he's going to get peppered with targets still, no matter who's throwing the ball, whether they have a lot of opportunities, that's a different story. It's going to be tough to draft Adams anywhere inside round 2. For me. It really is. And I can't picture Adams being in the 3rd round. Someone's going to convince themselves that Adams is the type of talent and player that if anyone throwing him the ball, he can be in the top 24 overall fantasy football players or a top 6 or 7 wide receiver. I'm a Packers fan. I just don't know. And I don't want to take risk with picks 1, 2, and 3 in my fantasy football draft. That's kind of how you lose your fantasy football league and draft is when you take too much risk early on. So we'd really have to see if we heard Rodgers wasn't going to be there coming back to the team today. We'd really have to see a lot of positive things about Jordan Love and specifically Jordan Love's connection with Adams, some good things said by Adams this offseason before they start, and then throughout the preseason see a little bit more before we can firmly answer this question accurately. So right now, with what I've heard about Jordan Love, I couldn't
Not good.
feel comfortable taking Adams in round 2, which means someone else would probably take him. I wouldn't get him in
Yeah,
round 3.
I'm
So,
looking at your rankings, right, Steve?
yeah.
So Tyreek Hill, you're taking over Adams in that case, right?
Yes.
Diggs,
Yes.
Calvin Ridley,
Yes.
DeAndre Hopkins,
Yes.
DK Metcalf,
Yes.
Justin Jefferson.
Yes.
I think this is where you stop. Keenan Allen.
It's funny though because I would still rather have Keenan Allen. Like
Oh,
I'm saying
I can keep going.
right
AJ
now.
Brown.
I'm just saying right now, based on what
Yeah.
I've heard about Jordan Love, that's
Yeah,
all
no,
I
that's
know.
fair. That's fair.
I know what Keenan Allen is. I don't know what Devontae Adams is with Jordan Love. Let's go ahead and move on. I could talk about this all day, but he would be definitely pushed back in the rankings. He's my number. I think he's my number 1 wide receiver
He is.
if Rodgers is there, and he would get pushed back in considerable amount. And I think that answers the question in summary.
Terry
So,
McLaurin.
We'll stop right now. I'm not going to expose myself. All right, moving on. From Sean Mohan on Twitter, who are the best second-tier running backs for the later round picks, round 4 and 5? So let's kind of think about some of the players that are here. Does anyone come to mind? I'm picturing
David
this is the
Montgomery.
round I usually avoid running backs. Some guys I feel kind of here are like Kareem Hunt, like Melvin Gordon.
Here, I'm currently pulling up an average draft calculator. I'm scrolling down into round 4.
Okay.
So you nailed it. Kareem Hunt is there.
Yeah.
Mostert's there.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Melvin Gordon.
Yep.
Miles Gaskin.
Yeah.
Ronald Jones.
Okay.
The aforementioned Chase Edmonds.
Okay,
That's 4 and 5.
Let's talk about those guys.
There's also Mike Davis, who
that was my first choice. I was actually going to say Mike Davis, and I think originally in the draft offseason he was a little like he was going later in drafts. Now he's moving up because people are starting to see those quads, and they're exactly seeing those quads. They know that he's the only guy in Atlanta. He's going to get the volume. I'm a little hesitant on Mike Davis just because I don't really think he's that great of an NFL running back. I think he thrives in a good opportunity. I don't know if the Atlanta Falcons offensive line and their offensive scheme is really a super great opportunity, but he's going to get the touches. And opportunity is key in fantasy football, so I like Mike Davis. I think I like Mike Davis out of all the guys you just mentioned.
100%.
So I think I feel pretty safe with him too. Round 5, the end of round 5 is when I feel comfortable. Round 4 is getting a little rich. I don't know if I would do that.
So with Mike Davis, I'm a big fan. He broke the most tackles at a high, he broke the highest frequency of tackles. His catch rate was 4th in the NFL last year at 84%. And that's not on 7 targets. I mean, he was 5th in the league in targets last year, and he was 4th in receptions. So Mike Davis, out of all those guys, I'm a big fan of. Then you gotta get into some weird-ish guys. I don't want a Tampa Bay running back in my starting lineup. I mean, it's just kind of as simple as that.
Yep.
I think Ronald Jones is kind of the regular season guy, and Leonard Fournette is the playoffs guy. But who knows? Miles Gaskin.
I'll take Kareem Hunt next out of that group.
Yeah, I mean, Kareem Hunt has a very clear role carved out for him, and there's not really any competition for him in that specific role.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a touchdown scorer PPR guy. So, yeah, no, I think if I had to just mentally rank them, it's probably Mike Davis, Kareem Hunt, Miles Gaskin,
Yeah.
Rojo.
In safety, too, it makes sense. Those are the rankings, and I think that's also like a safety ranking. So those are the guys. Moving on to the next question from Scuba Steve Mart on Twitter. Who has the best sophomore season for PPR? Chase Claypool or T. Higgins? There was a hot take about T. Higgins that came out today from the Bengals camp that Joe Burrow thinks T. Higgins looks really good. He's got a whole different outlook on the game, starting to improve, take that leap, maybe on his way. This is interesting because I like to view these offenses similar when it comes to the receiving cores. They both have 3 good receiving options. The Steelers have Claypool, Juju, and Deontay Johnson. And then the Bengals have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. So they're kind of similar. And I'd say they're probably right sandwiched in the middle, too, in similar position. You got an ugly face right now, man.
Yeah, dude, because like there's so many variables for this, so like, it's a great question. Obviously, if there's so
Great
many
question.
variables and
Super great question.
I can't just outright answer it. So you kind of just have to paint the landscape and kind of deduct from there. So first off, the Bengals would be kind of dumb to drop back Joe Burrow 35 times a game, right? Already limiting T. Higgins because is T. Higgins the best wide receiver on his team? I'm going to say no. And I think Jamar Chase is the real deal. I think Jamar Chase is probably going to be the one by the end of the year, similar to how A.J. Brown, like all of a sudden, was just the number one in Tennessee at the end of his rookie year. I think T. Higgins is the third receiving option because Tyler Boyd is criminally underappreciated in that offense. On top of that, they've got Joe Mixon, who will be a check down specialist for Burrow. I don't want Burrow dropping, like, I don't want a 7-step drop, Joe Burrow. I want quick routes. And they got to rely on the run game a little bit more than they have in past years. To me, Chase Claypool can come out of the year as the wide receiver one in Pittsburgh, right? I think his skill set is the best on that team. Deontay Johnson is like the like Antonio Brown store brand version. You know, like he's like a quick hitter guy who's going to see a major hit because Najee Harris is there. He was used as the run game. If Najee Harris opens up big plays to Claypool, it comes down to Big Ben being a good offensive quarterback. And I've seen him do it before. And Joe Burrow was starting to pick it up last year. But to me, it's a season-long thing. And I think Claypool probably has the best chance out of those two guys to have a full 17 games. 17 games of, consistent top-end wide receiver play.
All right, so how about this analogy? Claypool is to Martavis Bryant as Deontay Johnson is to Antonio Brown. Not,
I
not
don't
complete
hate that.
skill and talent, but like kind of on their team.
100%.
When we saw Martavis Bryant playing for the Steelers, he was like, I'm just saying, like in that position.
Yeah,
100%. We saw games where it was like, dude, this guy, if he keeps up like this, he's going to be the wide receiver one in fantasy. Like, he's just going to kill it. Like, I like that. I love Chase Claypool, his build. I like his skill set. Like, he's awesome. And T. Higgins is great, too. These guys are so, like, now that I'm reading this question, they couldn't be anywhere but back-to-back in my rankings. I don't know what my rankings are with these guys right now, but I'm going to have to put them right back-to-back. And I don't know who's going to be in front of the other because this is a great question. And if I had to choose, I think I like Claypool better. But there's a lot there with T. Higgins that we saw last year, which a lot of people did not expect. Like, definitely didn't expect. So it's going to be interesting for both teams because the amount of receiving options there are on each team. It's going to be really tough to choose which one is going to be the top guy, which one's going to be the middle guy, which one's going to be the last guy. But I'm going to go with Claypool. But if you want a Higgins, I wouldn't question it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for submitting those questions. We really appreciate it. We'll make sure to ask more questions soon, answer them on the show. If you enjoyed today's video, subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it. And like that video. Drop a comment of any questions. We'll make sure to answer your questions down there. But until next time, we'll see you later.